Hey guys, welcome to another online math class. This video will be about number patterns. And by the end of this lesson, our goal is to know what a sequence and term is, be able to find the pattern or rule in a sequence, and finally be able to name the terms in a sequence. Let's just pause the video here and take a couple of minutes to write these down. Alright, so just starting off with a couple of key terms, let's get these down into our bound references. So the first term is sequence, and that's just a list of numbers in a particular order. And the second number or items in a sequence are called the terms. So that's our second keyword for today of this sequence. So there's two types of sequences. There's random order and there's rule-based, but we're only going to focus on rule-based for this topic. So having a look at rule-based sequences, something like this here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. So there is a clear rule for this sequence, and to get from one number to the next, you just add 2 each time. And you might get a question like, what is the next term? In this case, it will be 15. Alright, let's have a go at some example questions here. This says, look for a pattern or rule in each sequence and find the next number. So for question A, the pattern would be add 6 each time. To get from 2 to 8, it's plus 6. 8 to 14 is plus 6. So the pattern would be plus 6. And the next number would therefore be 26. Let's try B. Looks like we're multiplying by 3 each time. Times 3, times 3, and times 3, and so on. So that's our pattern. And the next number in the sequence will be 135 times 3, which will give you a value of 405. Let's go to the next one, question C. In this case, you would subtract 3 each time. So from 7 to 4 is minus 3, 4 to 1 is minus 3, and so on. So that's our pattern. And therefore our next term will be negative 5. Question D here. This one is a bit trickier here. So if you try and find the pattern, you might try and add 3 each time first. 1 to 4 is plus 3, but 4 to 9 isn't plus 3, it's actually plus 5. So that can't be our pattern there. You might even try multiplying. 1 to 4 is times 4, but 4 times 4 doesn't give me 9. So that's not our pattern either. Let's try using some powers this time. That's the first term. So 1 squared gives me 1. That's the second term. 2 squared gives me 4. That's the third term. 3 squared gives me 9. That's the fourth term. 4 squared gives me 16. So I can see our pattern here. So in this case, our pattern will be each term is the square of the position in the sequence. So you could just write t squared, because we use t for term. You'll learn that in the next couple of slides. So therefore the next term, that will be the fifth term, so it will be 25. Because 5 squared gives me 25. And question E, this is another more difficult one. In this case, you would add the 2 terms in front of the term. So I'll do 1 plus 1 to get me 2. To get 3, I do 2 plus 1. That gives me 3. Next one, I'll do 2 plus 3. And that gives me 5, and so on. So your answer would be something like add the previous 2 terms. So therefore your next term will be 3 plus 5, and that gives you 8. So some of these patterns can be a little bit difficult to find, especially like question D and E. So just make sure you're trying to think outside the box for the more difficult ones. Alright, now moving on to naming the terms in a sequence. So the symbols T1, T2, T3, and so on are used as labels for the terms in the sequence. So T1 means the first term, T2 means the second term, and T3 means the third term. And the small numbers, as you can see there, are called subscripts. Alright, let's write that down into our bound reference, and once you've got that, let's have a go at some example questions. So this says for the sequence 2, 8, 14, 20, 26, 32, state the values of T1, T4, and T6. So we don't have to find the pattern here, we're just labeling these terms or the values. So T1, that's just the first term there, so it's going to be 2. Question B, that's the fourth one, that's that, so it's going to be 20. And T6, that's just going to be over here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yep. So it's going to be 32. Alright, otherwise that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all back online.